of 26, and notes that the recommendations there were adopted by the Taranaki Regional Council on Tuesday, 14th of April 2026. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Donna and Craig. Let's come to item number 2, and we're going to invite Finbar Kittle to speak to this item, Mana Whenua Engagement Strategic Priorities 2026. Thanks, Finbar.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So before you is the second edition of a similar paper that we presented around this time last year, where the Council endorsed a range of priorities to guide how we are our engagement with iwi in particular, due to the legal nature of many of these things over the year. So this paper provides a bit of an update on where those priorities got to, and then also seeks your endorsement of some updated ones reflecting how things have moved, particularly with regards to the replacement of the RMA and also the initiation of mana wakahono arohi from a number of iwi in the region. So through you, Chair, I can either talk through all of them together or kind of go one at a time, because some of them are a bit different, and pause for questions. What would be most advantageous? One at a time? Yep. All right. So we'll start with the mana wakahono arohi. So these are a tool under the Resource Management Act that codify how, they're almost like a relationship agreement, like that one we had with Maniapoto that was endorsed last year, that codify how iwi will be involved in plan making, resource consenting and enforcement related matters under the RMA. They, under the bill, if the iwi have the option of initiating a mana wakahono with any councils within their region, and once initiated, the process goes. And unless both parties agree to withdraw, you end up with an agreement. So there is a very formal statutory process that you go through. And so 5 iwi authorities, I should say, have now initiated mana wakahono with the council. Ngāti Maru, which was the first, Ngāti Maru, Ngārauru, Taranaki iwi, Ngāti Mutanga, and Te Tōpori Ngarahu. So Te Tōpori Ngarahu is a bit of an interesting case. That's the iwi authority that is associated with Te Tōpori Kukarangi under the Maunga. So it is different as an organisation from those other iwi. So that process is now moving forward. Under the RMA, there are things that your mana wakahono has to deal with and others that are optional. So like consenting and compliance are optional, but it has to deal with plan making. And so you'll see that in the paper, negotiations with Ngāti Maru are reasonably, at officer level, are reasonably well advanced in terms of a draft that focuses on plan making, so the mandatory matters. And then there is a discussion to be had with the other iwi who have initiated around the potential for a collective agreement with multiple iwi, or whether you do separate agreements for each iwi and the relevant councils, but with provisions that ensure that they are administratively aligned so they're managed to operate. And the timeline that we're working through for those agreements is for the Ngāti Maru one, and this relates to the JMA as well, in terms of having a draft ready for consideration by governance in the kind of June, July time period. So that's the mana wakahono. There's still a lot of work to be done, but as I said, the work with Ngāti Maru in particular is reasonably well advanced, and we'll see how much the other iwi potentially want to join that agreement, or if it could be used as a template for others as we go forward. So I'll pause there on the mana wakahono if people have any questions.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. Just a couple of questions. In terms of the mana whakahono, have there been any engagement with any other iwi or Taranaki that isn't in the report?
Through you, Chair, yes. So when I drafted the report, Ngāti Mutanga and Taranaki iwi hadn't initiated. They have now formally done so. And when we held the initial hui with Ngāti Maru, Council used its discretion under the Act to open the invite to all the other iwi in Taranaki, because kind of could read the tea leaves on what was coming. And so we wanted to have that discussion. And so, yes, we have been talking with all 8 iwi, and we have also checked in with Maniapoto in terms of the area of Te Rohi, which comes into Taranaki.
Kapai, just to follow up, please, Chair. In terms of that part there, what's the timeline? Is there a timeline before that is no longer applicable or available to the iwi?
So, through you, Chair, under what's in the bills at the moment in terms of the natural environment and the planning bill, is there is a provision that basically says any completed or initiated, any mana waka hono that are completed or initiated before the bills get royal assent, which could happen any time from kind of July, late June, July, September, those ones get carried forward into the new regime. So you have to kind of, they set out how you're going to work together on making a plan. So you apply that for spatial planning, for example. But the bills do make it so that there will be, at least what's in there at the moment, there'll be, if you do not initiate by the royal assent, opportunities lost, except if you were to join an existing agreement.
Cool. Just one more, if I may, Chair. As such, in knowing the relationship agreement with this council and other councils and Maniapoto, if a mana whakahono agreement is to be initiated, let's just say on the border of Ngāti Tama, is that something that they would have to initiate with this council?
For Maniapoto?
For like Ngāti Tama, who sits on that boundary.
Through you, Chair. Yes, so if Ngāti Tama wanted to initiate, there would be a discussion with us in the New Plymouth District in terms of potential councils. I'm not sure if the Rohi overlaps into the Waikato.
It does.
It does. So then there would also be a conversation to be had around the Waikato Regional Councils and the relevant district council. They were interested.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any further questions on this particular subject?
Aiko. Morena koutou. I just wanted to report back on the Potai who we had on Friday. So just to let you know that the iwi are all progressing to get their joint management agreements through before that cut-off time. So that's going quite well. The mana whakahono rohi, I'm not completely sure who is and who isn't, but I imagine they will try. And I just while I've got a chance, I just wanted to add, we would like so I'm supportive of all the recommendations. I'm happy to move those, but we'd like to add another one around being included in the process and document sharing with the shift from TRC governance into the new board model that's coming.
Yeah. Just clarification.
Sorry, Emily, were you asking a question as well in your comment?
No, it wasn't a question, just an addition to add a recommendation and moving the other recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, is there any other hands for, yes, Michael.
Thank you, Chair. So with possible changes to local government structure, with changes to RMA, what effect, if these mana whakahono arohi get put in place, what effect will the changes have on them into the future? And I mean, I guess, is it good timing to be doing it? Is it going to be better for iwi and councils to be doing something when we know where we're heading, or is now the right time?
Through you, Chair. So this is just, I can only base this on what's in the bills. But particularly as it relates to plan making, so your spatial plan, your future natural environment and land use plans, the bills are quite clear that mana wakahono has to inform that. And so it's a useful opportunity to codify how we're going to work together. And particularly, this is something that we have to put in the process agreement for the spatial plan anyway. So that agreement sets out how, amongst other things, how the 4 councils will give effect to treaty settlements, give effect to any mana wakahono, and just generally step through how iwi will be involved in the plan making process. So basically by doing this now, it's an opportunity we're going to have to do it later anyway, in a way, through that process agreement. So it's a good opportunity to line some of that stuff up before we get swept away with the crazy timelines for spatial planning and things like that.
Okay, Susan?
I just wanted to understand, if I can, this is this piece of work is effectively BAU, and it's something that's been worked on for a considerable period of time, isn't it?
Through you, Chair, the Ngāti Maru initiated the Manawaka Hono in December. So that's all been quite new. The joint management agreement, which I'll talk about next, is something that's been worked on for a longer period of time. The two are overlap.
And as I understand it, the anticipated changes to the law will require all of this anyway, so it's not going to be lost work.
Through you, Chair, no. No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next area. Thank you.
All right, through you, Chair. So the joint management agreement with Ngāti Maru, we're very related to the Manawaka Hono, but a bit different. So for the main difference being that it's something that's established under the Ngāti Maru Settlement Act. That is a requirement we have to agree a joint management agreement with them. A JMA is similar to a relationship agreement and a Manawaka Hono in that part of it will set out the same thing, like how you are going to work together on various issues. Where a JMA is very different, however, is provisions where you are like agreeing something, where the JMA will have and this form often the Waitara River Committee as a body to make decisions. And where that makes a decision under the JMA, it has legal weight as a decision of council. So it's a much more crunchy and formal joint decision-making tool on specified matters. And in the settlement, it's mainly focused around environmental monitoring in the Waitara catchment, where you might make a decision to say that this is a priority for monitoring in the Waitara catchment, and that's a decision as if we brought it up to this committee and it got recommended up to council. So that requires some additional things to work through. Again, the JMA we've been working on for a while. It's again, at officer level, it's in a fairly good space and is nearly ready, hopefully, to be brought forward to council with the Manawaka Hono. And I should also say with that agreement in particular, with the direction they're heading in, there will be placeholders. So there will be some material which we say this is going to take us longer to work out and we'll work on it in slower time. But again, there's a real focus on getting those plan-making provisions right, because that's going to be the immediate priority when we move into the new resource management regime.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you. Moving on, the Maniopoto relationship agreement. So you'll recall that this council endorsed that relationship agreement last year, and so now we're moving into the implementation phase of that. In particular, the establishment of a leadership forum to provide oversight of the implementation of that agreement. It's pretty standard with any of these things that you have kind of a group of councillors and trustees who come together at least once a year to make sure everything's honky-dory and you can have a good conversation about strategic priorities and things like that. So you'll see the draft terms of reference for that group attached to your paper for noting. And really, it's all going quite well. So we're nearly ready to kind of establish that and seek the council's representative on who they and the alternate for our participation. And I just came off the first operational level discussion. So we've got the relationship one, but then we also meet twice yearly to talk at the operational level, where we just talked about what we've got going on and things like that. So that went quite well.
Questions?
Kia, thank you, Chair. Thank you. And I'm fascinated to hear more about this particular agreement. Can you just disclose to us the reasons or justification to support the relationship agreement with Maniapoto?
Through you, Chair, it's a requirement in their settlement. It says that Taranaki Regional Council and Maniapoto must have a relationship agreement to cover that area in the report. And similarly, the relationship agreement is co-signed by Ruapehu and Horizons. So it's a similar kind of same provisions.
Kapai. I noted in the agreement there's nothing in terms of joint investment. So understanding the relationship agreement, what about investment? Is there any requirement for this council to financially invest?
Through you, Chair, no, there's not. There are provisions that when you have that leadership forum, you do talk about capacity building and opportunities for both to strengthen both Maniapoto's ability to engage with council, but also council's ability to engage with Maniapoto as well. But it's not so much about investment, that's more around like, are there secondments that you could explore and things like that.
Okay, has there been any risk analysis taken on board in the borders between Maniapoto and Ngāti Tama?
Through you, Chair, we haven't undertaken a risk analysis. I know Ngāti Tama is aware of this agreement, but for us, we don't have a choice. It's a legal obligation for us to have the relationship agreement, but we're very aware of that overlap. So when we do engage, we'll make sure that everything's transparent and things like that.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions on Maniapoto relationship agreement? Thank you.
All right, through you, Chair, get in there. So the Waipara River Committee, not so much to report here. That's still a work in process in terms of trying to get an agreement over the line to establish that committee. We're awaiting feedback from on an interim agreement that we put together that tries to put some just small things in place, but nothing else to report other than we're waiting to hear back on commentary on that.
Okay.
So then now we get into matters regarding the Maunga. So you'll be aware of the Maunga Redress Act, which established the Maunga as a legal entity. The voice of that legal entity is Te Tōpuni Kukarangi, which is a board with 4 iwi appointees and 4 Crown appointees. Those 4 iwi appointees are appointed by Te Tōpuni Ngārahu, which is that iwi authority that initiated the mana wakahono. The key thing here is that Te Tōpuni Kukarangi has been busy working on an updated management plan for the national park, and they will be looking to reach out to us for formal consultation on that over the coming months. And also to flag that there are aspects of the legal personhood that are very relevant to resource management, particularly around plan making and resource consenting. There are many discussions still to be had on how that plays out in practice, and just to flag that those will be ongoing, and that mana wakahono that's been initiated by Te Tōpuni Ngārahu is an opportunity to probably have some of those conversations. So is spatial planning itself, in terms of, for example, the spatial extent of the legal personhood. And then finally, through
Question,
So just, you know how it extends beyond the park boundaries. How does that work in reality? How does that affect the landowners around it?
Through you, Chair, that's what we need to have a conversation about. In one sense, the legal definition is quite clear. It's all the surrounding lands. But there's a conversation that we need to have with Te Tōpuni Ngārahu and under iwi around practically how that's given effect to in resource consenting and plan making, which we're still to have.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Finally,
sorry, Tom broke in. Yeah, Bill.
Could you please define all surrounding land?
Through you, Chair, that's the nub of it. That's what it says in the Redress Act as the boundary, or not the boundary, or the extent. So that is, we don't have a clear definition in terms of a line on a map. So we've got to, that's what we've got to figure out.
Okay. No further questions?
Through you, Chair. So finally, and I've talked a bit about this throughout, around the resource management replacement, particularly looking ahead to spatial planning and the process agreement that we need to do. So that is a priority in terms of figuring out what we put in that agreement, both in terms of how we give effect to treaty settlements, the existing treaty settlements we have in the region, but also how the four councils and iwi will work together on the process of the actual policy work for the spatial plan. And as part of that, we are currently operationally considering how we can pivot our existing, we've got freshwater engagement that we have with Potaio. That's worked quite well over the course of our freshwater plan development. Obviously, we can't notify that anymore. So we're also looking at how we can kind of pivot that, that approach towards also supporting spatial planning, which we're working our way through now.
Any questions on that section? Yes.
Not for that section, but just overall.
Okay.
Really.
Let's do that.
So it's probably just a question and a comment. While there's a list from A to F, is that the prioritisation of those, or how will they be prioritised?
Good question. Through you, chairs. It is not a prioritised list. It is, most of them, to be honest, are things we have to do. We don't have a choice. So we will do our best to get through them as much as we can. And yeah.
Probably more thinking around capacity and capability, both for council and iwi.
Yeah.
Just ensuring that we have the right energy focused at the right areas to ensure the best output.
Yeah, through you, Chair. And so, for example, the immediate priorities, if I was to rank them just based on my own sense of strength of legal obligation and impending timelines, the Manawaka Hono conversation, the joint management agreement, and those are the immediate priorities, followed by the process agreement and figuring out how we work together on spatial planning.
Okay, thank you.
Denny? Thank you.
Kia ora, just to that, if a mana whakahono was initiated by an iwi, there is a timeline, right? What's that timeline again?
Through you, Chair, the Act says 18 months until you have an agreement or otherwise agreed between the parties. Some of the discussions that we've had is that it's prudent to work on it quickly, both in terms of when those bills get royal assent, we're going to be boots and all into spatial planning, so we want as much tidied up as possible beforehand, and that there are, it's just, yeah, the faster we land it, the quicker we can get moving on the plan making side of things.
And this is in alignment towards the new bills that are coming now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So just following up on that question, so all this work that you'll be doing between now and presumably the royal assent period of time, will you be, as you say, doing some of the statutory work that will be required in the new settings, noting perhaps areas of further discussion that may come back to a council in a report or recommendation at a later stage?
Yeah, through you, Chair. So the JMA and the Manawaka Hono, there's law exists already that says we need to do these things, and so that's what we're doing. And particularly for the Manawaka Hono, the bills might change as they go through the select committee process and modify how that Manawaka Hono flows through into the new regime, and that's just will be what it will be.
Yeah.
But it's a legal obligation we have now to do. The process agreement, nothing in the process agreement can be finalised until the bills actually have royal assent. So currently it's planning and thinking for the when the process agreement is inevitably brought forward to the four respective councils post royal assent.
Very good. Any further comments or questions for Finbar while he is in full flow here with all this important information? Okay, well, let's come to the recommendations on page 8 and 9. That the Taranaki Regional Council receives a memorandum titled Mana Whenua Engagement Strategic Priorities 2026, and then approves. Do I need to read them all out?
Probably not. No.
1 through to 6.
I'm happy to
here,
move.
A through to F. Beg your pardon?
I'm happy to move.
Yep, okay, moved by Susan Hughes and seconded by John Maxwell. All
So
those in
I had an
favour?
additional recommendation that I put at the beginning.
We weren't clear about that.
So what was that?
I requested to add a recommendation around including the iwi with the negotiations for the new entity, regional council and district councils, just to have documents shared with them.
Did anyone
We're not
understand?
clear
Did
about,
you understand
Emily,
that?
can you
Yeah.
be really clear?
So we've got the first, it's recommended council specifically approve the following as new strategic priorities for mana whenua engagement. And we've got
What's new?
6.
Yeah.
So what are you referring to, Emily?
So just, we want to be, well, the iwi want to be involved in the process for that negotiation and want to see the documents before they come out. Or we hear things in the media, which is what have done.
Sorry, look, we can't hear you.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to make it more clear. iwi just want to be involved in that process and not find out in the media what's happening around setting up the new council board. Sorry, I forget the name.
Chair, what I think Emily's trying to say is she would like this council to now agree that iwi be involved in the new spatial planning process that will be in the new legislation. That, as you will recall, was covered in the terms of reference for the working group that has previously been signed off by council.
Yeah, the last meeting.
So that is proposed to be in there. I think you do need to be careful that you're not getting ahead of legislation that is yet to be passed by Parliament. While you have informally said there'll be discussions and work done, you can't formally commit to do that until you see what the piece of legislation actually says once it becomes law. So I think there is a balance there to be found.
Yes, thank you.
That's not what I was saying. I was talking about the discussions that are
Clarify
going on.
what she's saying.
We'll just
Maybe I could clarify to here.
Yeah, kia ora.
So what I understand that she's asking for is just around the simplifying local government and the impact between Taranaki Regional Council and NPD, well, Taranaki Regional Council and the district councils. So rather than iwi hearing about what's going to happen through the media, can there be some involvement, some communication with iwi prior to anything being established? Is that what you're after?
Well, Emily, would like to answer what Mitch has just
She's given you the
rephrased?
time.
Yeah, that,
Agreed. Okay. Look, I think the Chief Executive has made a position quite clear, and I think that with all of us around the table, with the process that Finbar has proposed, all of those conversations are going to take place. And I think the steering group that's been established around spatial planning has those requirements to propose how those conversations take place around spatial planning.
Not
Yeah,
so
and I
much the
think
spatial
that's-
planning aspect, but the simplifying local government aspect.
Yep.
If I could just comment, Chair, please, and then Chair of the Mayoral Forum may wish to comment as well. So that actually is outside the scope of this paper here today.
Correct.
So, look, absolutely we will be having discussions with iwi, wherever that goes, through that whole process. And so that, all the detail of that hasn't come out yet, but will. Have you got any comments on that, Craig, as Chair?
I believe that it's well, I've read that it's imminent, so we'll be getting a clear steer from Cabinet, Steve, perhaps very soon as to what that's going to look like and what we need to do.
Again, there is a bit of an expectation that there'll be some public announcements after Cabinet's considered the consultation results from the Simplifying Local Government Reform process about the policy direction of this current government. What's also been made very clear, of course, is that it's very unlikely legislation will get introduced, let alone passed, this election,
Yep,
before the election in November, given we have something like 12 sitting days in July and August, I think, before Parliament has to rise. And they have yet to make policy decisions, let alone draft legislation, etc. So very unlikely that anything will get past this side of the election on that reform process.
Thank you for that.
So just to clarify if I can, so Greg probably is outside the scope of this specific paper, but what I gather is that there's an undertaking to ensure that iwi are kept informed throughout the process.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll give you that undertaking now.
Yep.
You okay with that, Tuhia?
Yeah, just before the media would be good. Thanks.
Okay, let's come back now to these 6 recommendations. Point under 27 options, A to F. Do I have a mover? I do have a mover, don't I? And a seconder. Right. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Just a clarification, Chair, did you say A to F? A to E?
Hey,
Sorry, A to... Well, I have an F here. On my...
I don't have an F.
No,
yeah, sorry.
Page 12.
yeah, I do.
A to E, thank you. Great.
so what is it?
A to E. Page 9 is the final
Yeah,
page.
it's only well spotted.
Right, thank you. A to E, thank you. Confirmed. All right, now we will now come to the planning and policy update. And Anne, thank you, Finbar.
Kia ora.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, it's a fairly short paper. As you can see, just a couple of highlights. We're continuing to work on the land and freshwater, mostly around engagement and analysis of the issues, progressing internal consultation on industrial trade waste, forestry. We have a little bit more engagement to undertake in relation to stormwater and source water with some of the districts as well coming up. Basically, all of our considerations, as I think I said last time, we are also looking ahead to what the new legislation, what is relevant in the new legislation about all of these topics. The important thing in relation to freshwater to note is that we have had clarity that there will be no further freshwater direction prior to the new system being in place. So we're not going to have to be doing any two-step changes from here on in, which is good to have that clarification. There has been some amendments to the stock exclusion regulations, which relate to beef, cattle and deer not being included in the regulations. So they are not required to be excluded from wetlands with threatened species. Probably not of huge impact in this region, but what that does, although it's supposed to be saving farmers money, it will mean that we will need to consider at the regional level what that means when the time comes. In terms of resource management reform, if we've been continuing to work on spatial planning with our district colleagues in a very collegial way. If you had time to look at the Simpson and Gryson summary of what councils can be doing now in relation to spatial planning, we are actually doing all of that. We've worked on the process agreement, and you would be aware of that, the terms of reference for the steering group. We just talked about treaty legislation and implications, and iwi authorities. And we primarily, what the policy team is doing is looking at regional issues and priorities and the mandatory matters, and we're also looking at the spatial planning data and what state that's in and how to manage that and bring that together for spatial planning. So we're quite well situated in terms of what we can be doing, we are doing, which is helpful to know. It does actually show how complicated and what a short what a short time frame we are going to have when we get the final version of the legislation. So, you know, we're working as hard as we can to be well prepared for that situation. In terms of having the steering group, I think we've almost got the representation settled, certainly from this committee's point of view, and from, I think we're still waiting on New Plymouth, but everything else is settled. I'm thinking that when we do have the steering group, we will still update this committee through these updates. I think that's thinking, obviously, to be discussed with the steering group, but that would make some kind of logical sense. And the other thing to note is that Abby will be our executive who is working with the steering group. That's really all I have. If there are any questions.
Thanks, Sam. Yes, sir.
Through you, Chair. Thank you. And absolutely, timelines are tight. Are we trying to align all the councils with the natural hazards, and do you actually have all the resources? I think it was from the mentioned before about the resources in place, or do you have to actually look for external support to actually meet this?
In terms of natural hazards, I might defer to Finger.
Through you, Chair. So for natural hazards, that's something that we're collecting the information on in terms of what our various layers are and how they're relevant to spatial planning, which we've got a fairly good handle on that now in terms of where our respective gaps are and the like, and where we might be able to do some proactive use before now when the spatial plan is due. More broadly on the resourcing question, looking ahead at least for the next financial year, because the spatial plan is a collective effort across the 4 district councils, we feel we're reasonably well placed within what's in the current annual plans to...
Yeah, okay, good. And just if I may, Chair, just to me, just watching it so far, I think at an officer level, everyone is thinking regionally, which is absolutely fantastic. I guess my only concern that I have personally is that at a governance level, you know, we must make sure that as leaders that we're totally focused on a regional outcome, not individual outcomes. That's just my view. But also for Stratford, you know, we have the challenge also too with horizons in our area and the boundary issues that will crop up there. You know, and that's something that we, you know, as a small council, that can come at a massive incurred cost as well. But certainly that that leadership from the governors must be very clear going forward.
Thank you. We'll go to Benita and then we'll come to you, Julie.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, goodbye. Just in terms of the removal of the parameters around stock and threatened species, is it not an issue here in Taranaki or there in Taranaki because we have so few left of those kinds of areas?
I'm not entirely certain, Benita. I'd have to look into it.
Oh, okay. It's just your comment.
I think it's basically because it's extensive beef cattle and wetlands, not dairy and wetlands. It's just the kind of stock.
Okay. But it's here in the report that the regulation will continue to exclude dairy cattle, dairy support cattle, pigs,
Yep.
beef cattle, and deer.
Yep.
So you mentioned before that it's not such an issue for Taranaki. I'm just trying to understand why it's not such an issue. Is it because we don't have the wetland?
No, the change is to, that was all, the regulation already excluded dairy cattle, you know, that's the existing situation, but the change is to take out extensive deer from being excluded.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's a lot of excluding and excluding.
Yeah, right.
So we don't have deer. We don't have a lot of deer.
We don't have deer. So
Okay.
really the only change is in relation to extensive beef cattle. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And if I may, Mr. Chair, I just have another question relating to Taranaki Regional's obvious or expressed expertise in this area. If we're doing all that sort of stuff already, are we offering up in any way, shape or form our knowledge and skills and staff experience to other councils to help them perhaps get ahead of the curve in this area? Are we working with Te Kahika to get that out there?
Yeah, absolutely. We're part of a national network of people now set up to do special planning, which was an initiative of Teresa Gordon, who's our program manager. So we had the first meeting of that last week, and all the learnings and tools are being shared. And there's a policy SIG happening in May where we will be giving a presentation to all of the other policy people about spatial planning.
Right, that's excellent. Thank you and congratulations, team.
Yeah.
Good work.
Thank you. We'll come to Denny Mahu.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions. First question is just with regards to the regional spatial planning process. What do you think is the biggest challenge at the moment? Is it the time frame?
Actually, the biggest challenge is not having the national direction on it.
Yep.
Excellent. Say no more. Final question, and maybe to the CE. Have you had any conversations with the New Plymouth District Council CE with regards to who may be going on to this oversight committee?
Talk to them all the time.
Oh, yes. Several over a period of time, yes.
Oh.
Right, now we've got a further question from Dion Luke.
Through you, Chair, I think you answered it. Just in terms of the second portfolio, who we plan for the 30th of April, is that still going ahead or is it?
We're trying to clarify whether it's going ahead. My attitude is always until it's on, until it's not on. So yeah, they're basically informal catch-ups to update people on where things are at. So at this stage, it's still on. Maria has been on holiday, who arranged it, and we haven't remade contact. So.
Great. Thank you very much. Anne?
So, through Chair, one of the other purposes of putting these papers up for you was to show the roller coaster ride we're on here, and to note that these papers are subject to what's in the draft bills, and the final acts may have more tolerance in terms of time. But the staff resources here, we're really up against trying to do all these things with these timeframes.
Liam's got a question.
As well as BAU and everything else. So we're in a like other districts, we're really we're up against it.
And this is only one government process.
Yep. Sorry. Question from you.
Oh, really certainly, as farmers, absolutely sympathise with the roller coaster of uncertainty and a lot of things coming at you at once. Completely, it doesn't make for an easy operating environment. I just wanted to ask a clarifying question, if I can, and that is around voluntary actions by landowners and this council's incredible track record of working with landowners. And in this time of increasing regulation, does this council still have a really firm belief that voluntary actions by landowners are a very strong and necessary part of moving forward?
So if I could assist, the answer is yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yep.
Very good.
And even as part of the new bill, we will have to be indicating as part of what we put up, what our non-regulatory pathways and actions are. So we are working on those as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Let's come to the recommendations, page 41, A, B and C. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Thank you, Grant. And seconder, thank you, Donna. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Let's come to our next item. Can I swim here? And Angela, we welcome you to present to us. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Angela Collins Goinoa. I am one of the water quality scientists here at Taranaki Regional Council, and I manage the Can I Swim Here program. Every summer between November and March, we work closely with Te Whatu Ora, New District Council, Stratford District Council and South Taranaki District Council to advise the public on whether water quality in our rivers, lakes and beaches is suitable for swimming and recreation. This monitoring is a requirement of councils across Aotearoa, New Zealand, and is delivered as the Can I Swim Here program. Fecal indicator bacteria provide an indication of the potential risk to human health from fecal contamination in water, and their presence indicates that other pathogens harmful to human health may also be present. Because it's impractical to routinely test for the full range of bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens that might be in water, we use fecal indicator bacteria as indicators of the potential health risk. In fresh water, we monitor for E. coli, while Enterococci is monitored in coastal waters. These bacteria originate in the gut of warm-blooded animals, and they may enter the environment through animal and bird feces, wastewater and effluent discharges, and stormwater runoff. Concentrations of the bacteria often increase during and after periods of heavy or prolonged rainfall when contaminants are washed into rivers, lakes and coastal waters from surrounding land. We also monitor cyanobacteria, which are naturally occurring microorganisms found in rivers and lakes. Under warm, low-flow conditions with sufficient sunlight and nutrients, cyanobacteria can grow rapidly, and they may form visible blooms on the beds of river, which is called benthic, or free-floating blooms in lakes called planktonic. Monitoring results from the Can I Swim Here program are published on the Land, Air, Water Aotearoa, or LAWA website. LAWA is a nationally consistent online platform where a range of environmental data, including the weekly recreational water quality results from across New Zealand, can be viewed by the public. Prior to November 2021, recreational water quality samples in Taranaki were collected during fine weather only. Sampling now occurs weekly regardless of weather conditions. This change has brought the monitoring program into line with national policy requirements, and it provides our community with greater awareness of the suitability of our rivers, lakes and beaches for swimming and recreating during a range of weather conditions. The environmental snapshot that we are presenting to you today provides an overview of the Can I Swim Here program, along with a brief summary of results from November 2025 to March 2026 monitoring season. This snapshot differs from previous Can I Swim Here report cards that we have presented to Council, where separate assessments were made for each parameter monitored, and instead this focuses on an overall assessment of how swimmable our rivers, lakes and beaches were throughout the season. This summer, our sampling team monitored 40 river, lake and beach sites across the region. Results here are presented as the number of weeks each site was classified as safe to swim, caution advised, or unsuitable for swimming based on weekly bacteriological monitoring and fortnightly benthic and planktonic cyanobacteria monitoring assessed against national guideline thresholds. This season, we followed a winter with above average rainfall and mixed summer conditions. We had several heavy rainfall events in January, and that was followed by generally dry conditions later in the season. As a result, river flows fluctuated during the early and mid-season before settling into mostly low flows towards the end of summer. For our river sites, the Pātea River at Boat Ramp in Mana Bay was safe to swim on the most sampling occasions, followed by the Uranui River at Mouth, Waitara River at Bertrand Road, and the Tongapuruja River at Mouth. The Wainongaru River at Ohawe and Kopokanui River at Beach were considered unsuitable for swimming 17 out of 22 weeks due to exposed mats of benthic cyanobacteria along the river's edge. For the remaining 5 weeks of the season, both of these sites were either at caution advised or unsuitable for swimming due to the exceedances of E. coli thresholds. The Waiwakai River at Meeting of the Waters and Maryland's Domain and the Manganui River at Everett Park were also frequently considered unsuitable for swimming due to exposed mats of cyanobacteria on the river's edge. 2 sites, the Waiwakai River at Lake Ritamanu and the Tahinui Stream at the mouth, remain under permanent health warnings due to persistently high levels of fecal contamination from upstream waterfowl, such as ducks and seagulls. Water quality in our lakes was variable. Lake Rotarangi at the Patea Dam was safe to swim on all sampling occasion, while lakes Ratapiko, Opunaki and Rotakari had mixed results throughout the season. Lakes Nangana and Herengawe were either at caution advised or unsuitable for swimming on all sampling occasions, primarily due to ongoing algal blooms, which were present for 19 of the 22 monitoring weeks at both sites. Water quality at our coastal monitoring sites was generally good, with most beaches considered safe to swim throughout the season. Back Beach, Waihiti Beach, Mana Bay, Uranui Beach and Waverley Beach all achieved a perfect record, with all samples coming back as safe to swim throughout the season. Most other beaches were also safe to swim for most of the season, with only 2 to 3 exceedances of the caution advised or unsuitable swimming threshold recorded at each site. I think the rest is read and happy for any questions.
Thanks very much. Susan.
Is there any possibility of putting signage at the Tianui telling people not, I know they're all laughing at me because that's what
I agree with you.
Asking people to stop feeding the ducks and telling them that by feeding the ducks they are contributing to the poo in the water and the vast number of ducks. Is there any reason?
I'll handle that one. We can have a look at our signage at the site and see what we can do to
my own
get
signs.
You could have one at the bottom of your garden, Susan.
Well, it is something that clearly contributes. I mean, it is probably the only place in New Plymouth where little kids could potentially enjoy the water and swim, and it's too dangerous for them to be in it. And that's because of all the duck crap.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, no, we can certainly have a look at the signage and see what we can do.
Well, I'm sure if you could connect the dots, people would be less inclined to go and feed loaf after loaf of bread, which then turns the water into an oily, gooey mess.
Such a beautiful spot too, isn't it?
Would that be us or would that be MPDC?
We could have a discussion with MPDC.
Yeah.
Through you, Chair, sorry, there is a permanent health warning established.
I realise there
Yeah,
is,
yes,
because I've looked at it often, but it doesn't tell people by feeding the ducks you are making this more unsafe for people to use. Because I'm quite sure that Nana and Grandad would be highly encouraged by the idea that they could actually bring the kids for a swim there instead of just feeding the ducks, if in fact it was safe to
Donna
do so.
first, then you grab. Thanks, Susan. Donna, you had a question?
It's just on the Wananoro and the Kaupokanui. Because you were saying, what's the issue there? And is there a way we can fix it, or is it just a natural occurrence?
So, through you, Chair, those particular sites, most of the exceedances was due to benthic cyanobacteria. So that grows along the edges of the river and starts to accumulate, and it's exposed when the river flows drop. So that's primarily the biggest concern in those rivers. The other weeks they did exceed E. coli thresholds. That was generally after heavy rainfall events. But those two, just from my knowledge, they are quite wide, they're quite shallow rivers, they're very bouldery, like they're the perfect spot for cyanobacteria to grow. And we monitor those sites because they are known to have cyanobacteria.
Thank you.
Great.
Through you, Chair. Firstly, really cool report. Well done. It was a good read. But the Waiwakai River, and then you've got the Tihanui Stream. I can get the duck bit and seagull for Tihanui, but Waiwakai, the river, how do you actually measure the ducks and seagulls? More curious because there must be other effects, and bigger effects. Is this I guess my question is ducks and seagulls actually the issue at Waiwakaio, or is there something else that's not being recorded?
Through you, Chair. So we have done fecal source tracking investigations at that site below before, and if you ever walk to the bottom of the Waiwakaio where Rotamanu is and have a look upstream, there are hundreds. There are swans, there are ducks, there are Canadian geese, they're everywhere. And the fecal source tracking results came back that it is largely avian sources.
Okay, cool.
But not always
Not
entirely.
always, not entirely.
Yeah, we need to make sure we're...
All I was just wondering, through you, Chief, sorry, it's a percentage of, how do you know, like, is it 80% seagulls and ducks, or is it other underlying?
And we don't know the answer to that, so we don't know what proportion. We do know that they're a significant contributor, as Angela said. So certainly something that we need to have a think about in terms of utilising.
Through you, Chair, I was just wondering, how do we compare to last year? Is it lots better?
Through you, Chair, fairly similar. We had more issues with cyanobacteria last year. We never did produce the report in the end, but all sites that we monitor benthic cyanobacteria last year were at action for unsafe for swimming for most of the season because we'd come off the back of that drought. We hadn't had a lot of rainfall through that winter. So we did have more expensive issues with cyanobacteria. Otherwise, fairly similar. Yeah, the beaches are similar, lakes, pretty similar. Yeah.
Because the beaches are really good, don't they?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And it is a great report.
Yeah. Yes. So what was the date change when it went from monitoring just in dry weather to on a weekly basis, no matter what the weather is like?
So November 2021, we went from fine weather to sampling, and November 2021, from that season on, we changed to all weather monitoring.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say there's 4 days of torrential rain like we've experienced this summer. How long would it be before some of those areas that might be deemed to be, to have an alert over them, get back into a safety zone for swimming?
Through you, Chair, we recommend the public avoid swimming after heavy or prolonged rainfall for 2 to 3 days.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thanks very much. Any further questions? Thank you, Emily.
Right. Yeah, good report. I was curious about particularly the Waimuru, Kaupokonu, and the meeting of the waters, because I know those are quite popular swimming sites, and I don't know if there's large numbers of birds there. So I'm just wondering, can we do something else? Can we encourage intense planting in upstream? Can we put up some signs? Well, actually, I'm also curious, do we have signs at these particular sites saying do not swim after 3 days after heavy rain? Or 3 days after heavy rain?
Through you, Chair, so the answer about signage, yes, we have signs at all of those sites. We have regular water quality is monitored at the site signage at all 3 of those. And the district councils, after the results come back high or we say that a site is considered unsuitable for swimming, they also either switch their traffic light up in the New Plymouth district, or South Taranaki have different warning signs that they go and put at those sites. So the Wainongaro at Ohawi, there's one on the gate before you walk down to the river. Kopakanui, it's at the bridge, it's really clear. And I believe there's a traffic light at Maryland's, I think was the other one you mentioned.
Yeah. Specifically, do they have the signs that say do not swim for 3 days? Because I think that one's probably the most important for people to understand.
That's a great question.
I think we'll take that as an action, and we'll look at that as part of looking at our signage more generally. Yeah.
And just planting and things like that. Is that something we could kind of prioritise for the riparian plan, the riparian work, or?
In terms of taking the results that we've got and then working those through to our regulatory and non-regulatory programs, that was something we were working through as part of our freshwater policy program, but we can certainly take up conversations around knowing that if we've got particular issues in particular areas, that might be something that Dan's team want to put more focus or energy into. We can certainly make sure that we're connecting those conversations up. Absolutely.
Good. Thank you very much, Angela, for your presentation. I think we've asked all the questions. I know we have Benita, got your hand up.
Thank you. Kia ora team. I'm interested to know, have we ever tried to measure the effectiveness of signage at these sites? Do people actually take notice? Because at Kaupoko Nui, I've never seen anybody stop swimming for any reason. The kids are always in that river. If it's a fine day, there's someone in the river. And do we have any correlating evidence of health issues being reported by health authorities or medical centres or hospitals, etc., related directly to what's happening in those rivers when they're supposedly unswimmable? I'm just trying to get the bigger picture and see if A, what we're doing is effective, and B, are we seeing any evidence of effectiveness of that messaging, or are people still getting sick? Do we know that? That's really what I'm trying to figure out.
Both fantastic questions, Councillor. Yeah, look, there is, while we don't have evidence ourselves, there is anecdotal evidence that, people will look at a sign when it first goes up and then over time tend to ignore it. So we need to be a bit careful about not putting too many signs in too many places, particularly given they come at a cost to council. We know when we put them in places that aren't very open and public, often they'll get smashed up and torn down, and we end up having to spend a lot of money replacing them. Would be my experience in another council that did spend a lot of money investing in good signage. We'll want to think about that, I think, when we come back with a recommendation, if we were to make changes to the signage that we've got up. So yeah, there's pros and cons. Getting public messaging out through other channels like social media, radio interviews, and other things that we do are equally, I would say, probably more effective. Schools, working with our education team, other ways that we can help educate people. So there's a multitude of methods. Signage is just one. They can be effective though, and there can be opportunities to advertise other things like the non-regulatory programs we do as part of those signs. So look, there's other approaches that other councils have taken. Some do them particularly well, and we can certainly have a look at that. In regard to your second question, so Public Health do collect information about incidences where people have reported getting sick in some cases, but not all. So it's not a very robust data set in terms of us analysing where those impacts are and what's driven them and things like that. People can get sick for a multitude of reasons. A, they don't always report when they get sick. B, when they do report, that doesn't always necessarily translate through to identifying the source or cause of that illness. So it's difficult really to link that back to the effectiveness of what we're doing. Likewise with signage, generally we've seen, I think, from other public campaigns that educating people definitely helps, but how much of an impact that has is always a bit of a question. So
yeah.
Definitely, I think sign blindness is a real issue at Kaupoko Nui. There's signs like along the sides of the bridge, and it's just, you just walk past them. And also, in terms of the signs, sometimes they're very, they look informational rather than warning signs. There's no blaring, apart from maybe warning. If it was a red sign or something, people might stop and notice. But just thinking about the presentation of those signs as well. But yeah, kapai. Thanks for trying to keep us safe.
Okay. Craig.
Yeah, Chair, I'll just chime in here. Having sat around this table for about 16 years, this conversation has been going on and on and on, and we've talked about doing different types of signs, different types of making the public aware. I think the traffic lights, the ones that are permanently on red, people don't see them anymore, it doesn't stop them swimming. There has to be an element of common sense, and we need to just get that message out. Look, if it looks unclean, it probably is. And the message is out there. The sea water is brown. Don't swim in it, or if you do, that's at your own risk. Probably don't throw your young children in there, but, you know, and it is the beach testing when, you know, E. coli and something does become apparent. But then, of course, there still is that lag between finding out that, sending the test away, finding out that something's in the water, getting the results back, and by that time it could have cleared. So, yeah, until there's better technology that can instantly test and instantly notify people, yeah, I think that is just whack-a-mole. In a sense, we keep trying and informing the public, because also you don't want to be alarmist with these things, because there is, my understanding is that, like E. coli, for example, that's an indicator of potentially other bacteria that could be in the water, but whether that correlates to people actually swallowing it and getting sick, and whether they end up in hospital or not, there's not a lot of evidence to suggest that that happens frequently just because there's E. coli in a waterway. Would that be a fair summation of state of play?
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So we'll keep trying.
Thank you very much. Well, the recommendation is that the Taranaki Regional Council receives the Can I Swim Here environmental snapshot 2025-26. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Grant. Thank you, Phil. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's come to the next item of business, the Estuarine Benthic Health State of the Environment report, and we welcome you, Jesus Valdez. Thank you. And if you'd like to talk us through your report, that'd be great.
Tēnā tātou katoa, ko Jesus Valdez toki noa. I'm the coastal and marine scientist here at TRC, and I'm going to share some kōrero on our estuary results that we share in that big report that you all received. Hopefully you've read it, otherwise that's your homework. We'll talk you briefly through the key results you can find in that report if you haven't read it already. So in 2021, a new State of the Environment program was introduced for Taranaki estuaries. Fine-scale intertidal monitoring was progressively implemented between 2021 and 2025 in Mohakatino, Tongaporutu, Uranui, Waitara, Patea, and Waitotara, which were previously identified as highly vulnerable to sedimentation or eutrophication. Monitoring focused on soft sediment intertidal habitats, collecting data on sediment grain size, organic matter and nutrients, photosynthetic pigments, heavy metal, and estuarine macroinvertebrates. I'm aware I have a very short time, so I will quickly share a summary of those key results. No sign of nutrient enrichment was found, with total organic carbon and total nitrogen concentrations generally low and consistent with the good and very good ecological quality categories. Total phosphorus showed moderate concentrations at all 6 estuaries. All 6 estuaries had low levels of heavy metals, with mean concentrations for all analyzed heavy metals ranging from very low to low threshold categories, except for nickel that fell under the fair category. But nevertheless, they all remained below the threshold effect level, which indicates low likelihood of adverse biological effects associated with metal contamination. With regards to the photosynthetic pigments, chlorophyll concentrations were comparable amongst estuaries, suggesting similar levels of microalgae at most sites, while the other pigment, pheophytin, showed greater variability, indicating differences in the accumulation of degraded algal material between sites. Estuarine macroinvertebrate monitoring recorded a total of 70 different species of animals across the 6 estuaries over the reporting period. The species richness and species diversity differed amongst sites and between years, with generally higher richness and diversity in Urenui and Tongaporutu, and lower richness and diversity in Waitara and Waitotara. The species found informed ecological condition indices, which indicated the best overall condition at Urenui estuary, going from undisturbed to slightly disturbed, while Waitara, Patea, and Waitotara were consistently classified as moderately disturbed. Additionally, benthic health models indicated that mud was a more significant factor influencing the invertebrates living in these areas. And overall, all 6 monitored estuaries were impacted by sedimentation, with moderate to high mud content based on sediment grain size guidance and were classified as very poor against national thresholds. However, the interpretation of mud-related condition metrics requires caution given that the natural state of Taranaki's tidal river estuaries has not been widely investigated to date. In this sense, attached to the memorandum, you will find a very interesting report by Close and collaborators that provides some evidence of past conditions in the Urenui estuary and wider catchment. In this study, a 4.5 meter sediment core was collected from the mudflats in Urenui in 2023, and it was analyzed for pollen, spores, sediment composition, shell, plant, and wood fragments with 4 radiocarbon dates used to estimate the age on the different sections of this 4.5 meter core. The key findings of this study were that the fine-grained sediment was observed throughout the core. So this suggests that there has been high mud content in the sediments in Urenui for more than 7,000 years. So therefore, it might be more appropriate to attribute the current mud content to the natural characteristics of this catchment, rather than an indication of recent ecological degradation. So that's something important to keep in mind. A different topic worth highlighting is that in the report, you will also find a section on the unexpected discovery of the non-native Asian date mussel, Arquatulias enhausia. While we were collecting samples at Moja Catino and Tongo Perutu in 2023 and Urenui in 2024, we stumbled upon some Asian date mussels. These were the first ever records of this species in our region, and in response to this discovery, the Ministry for Primary Industries was notified, and a more thorough site search was carried out with Ngāti Tama. We did not find any established patches of this species. While this is a non-native species, it's not considered as invasive as other bivalves like the golden clam, Corbicula fluminea, and it's not a high-risk priority according to MPI. Therefore, no further action was recommended beyond keeping ongoing surveillance. This shows the additional benefit of estuarine monitoring for supporting biosecurity surveillance. And lastly, I would like to share that to uphold the principles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, efforts have been made to ensure that appropriate tikanga is followed when undertaking sampling and reporting for this program. As it is a relatively new program, this partnership approach continues to evolve and feedback is always welcome. Some of the actions undertaken to ensure Council acts as a genuine partner in this kaupapa include inviting Mana Whenua to participate at a level that aligns with their interest and availability. To date, we have been very lucky to have shared the estuary sampling mahi with TIL team members representing Ngāti Tama, Ngāti Mutunga, Ngāra Urukitahi, as well as all Tarawa Hapu. On behalf of the team, I would like to mihi to everyone who has participated, helped, and provided feedback on this program so far, and to reiterate our invitation to those that have not been able to join us. Ngā mihi kia koto katoa. And I would like to finish with the Wakatoki, Ma wero, ma pango, ka oti ai te mahi, which translates to, by working together, the work is completed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good. Very interesting. Amazing that you could do that comparison back to 7,000 years and see some consistency there. Any questions from members of the council? Denny, thank you.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. Thank you for your report. On page 62, there's just a list of recommendations from paragraph 38 onwards. Based on these recommendations, is this something now that council now consider to either action or implement, or is this just for noting purposes?
Oh goodness, it's taking a little bit to come up for me, but Dean might bring it up for me. If we just go back to recommendations.
The recommendation,
Just
sorry, in the
receive it.
report.
Yeah, no, just to receive it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any further questions? Emily, thank you.
Kia ora. I was just wondering if somebody could speak to the second report in there, which is the summary document, because it I don't think they quite overlap, the two things, and it just shows that I think it's the Waihe Reef, the Turangi and the Waioa at Greenwoods, they've got some decreasing is it diversity, and one of them's also got decreasing richness. Can somebody comment on those two?
Can someone repeat the question?
Did you get the question?
No, not quite. We didn't quite get which sites, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I just had to flip my screen. There was the Waihi Reef, the Waioa Reef, and the Turangi Reef. Show some, decreasing, yeah.
So that's from the Rocky Shore report. Are you trying to see if there's a connection between the rocky environment and the estuarine environments? Is that what I'm getting?
Okay, so that it doesn't quite relate because it's rocky, not the estuarine.
Yeah, we can take that one offline if that's helpful, if you've got specific questions around the reefs.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I was just wondering why it was in there. But we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, I think if you take that offline, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Look, thank you very much for your report and speaking to it. It's really appreciated. There are recommendations on page 58 that the Regional Council points or letters A to D, noting their recommendations that Denny referred to in paragraph 38. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Craig. Thank you, John. And all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's passed, thank you. Well, we've come to an end of our meeting today. Thank you very much for all those who have attended and presented reports. That's really appreciated. Shall we close with our karakia? And then, Mitch, I'm going to ask you to do a karakia for the kai following this. Thank you. Kia, uru, mai, ora, kaha, maya, kirona, kiraro, kiroto, kiraro, rere hau, mai mare e.
Pai, mua tātou kai. Munga noa I o te iriwa me te kaura I te kurukurutanga o tā kuraukura e kai.
Kia ora. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Staff. You want me to sign that?
No. Heading back to the Tony, bro? Heading back to the Tony? Oh, there. Let's keep you busy at the moment. Let's keep you.
No worries, as a council, would you be...
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, we had a bit of a catch up with Sean and operations.
Would you still carry on with the issues?
It was an interesting read, though. It'd be great to get that out to the farmers. There's some real insightful stuff
But I couldn't make